Long before video games had ever become popular, the earliest forms of the video game controller was first introduced in the arcade space. In 1947, the cathode ray tube amusement device was first mentioned publicly, and it became the earliest form of a video game, as well as its controller. The controller itself was nearly identical to the one seen on a current pinball machine, a simple rotating knob. Although the game was rather primitive, it was quickly adopted by the public due to it being the first ever video game, and helped pave the way for more complex video games, as well as more complex means of input. The joystick became the successor to the turning knob, and put forth more complex input than its humble predecessor. The first public example of a joystick was the Atari 2600 console, which released in 1972. The joystick was a simple device, featuring one single stick with one single fire button on the end. The Atari joystick help made the system, which was brought on the eve of the home console revolution, popular amongst the public and set the foundation for many more consoles to follow. The downfall of the joystick. Nearly all of the gaming public at the time was familiar with the single joystick and its one fire button, but Atari stepped things up in 1982 and released the Atari Boomerang. This was extremely well received by the gaming public, and although the Boomerang is long gone, its presence left an everlasting mark on the gaming industry today. As video games and the controller designs to accompany them continued to develop, the designs of them became more and more complex. This was easily apparent in the Atari T-Blade joystick. This joystick was the first joystick to feature more than one control stick contained within the same controller. This gave the public more of an ability to add inputs for more complex games instead of the traditional one joystick affair. The public responded positively to this new design and propelled the advancement of video games even further. Despite the success that the joystick enjoyed through arcade and console gaming in general, it would soon start to suffer in the late 1980s due to the emergence of improved and more complex ways of gaming. The joystick would remain a constant for arcade gaming for some time more, however it was replaced by such things within console gaming, and soon made its final exit from the gaming industry in 1984. An introduction to the N64 controller. The Nintendo 64, released in 1996, was the first of its kind to expand on the controller design. This iconic gaming system ushered in revolutionary gameplay and design concepts that laid the foundation of modern gaming. Equally impactful was the N64's peripheral device conception, notably the N64 controller. This device was really the first to effectively bring analog input technology to gaming, enhancing the level of interactivity offered by the video game industry. The Nintendo 64 controller, famously dubbed the Trident by its fans, saw few changes from its prototype design. Differences from the iconic Nintendo gamepad were immediately noticeable. The Zelda-esque Trident was a chunky, three-pronged behemoth which provided ergonomics that would become foundational in later controllers. Along the controller's edges were two analog sticks, two shoulder buttons, four middle face buttons, a sturdy D-pad, and a time-honored start button. The analog sticks were revolutionary and are still used to this day on most dual-stick controllers. They provided much greater control and free movement, which greatly improved the control over first-person shooters, sports games, and 3D platformers. While digital input controllers like the original NES controller were limited to directions of north, south, east, and west, the analog stick provided a much greater range of motion. The N64 controller also came with improvements in rumble and data storage technology. No longer was the player completely dependent on their eyes and ears to keep in tune with the game. The N64 controller also came with improvements in rumble and data storage technology. No longer was the player completely dependent on their eyes and ears to keep in tune with the game. The N64 was the first gaming system to offer the Rumble Pak peripheral, a device that fit into the controller and literally gave the player physical feedback using a unique vibration system. It was also the first gaming controller to feature the analog C-stick, which allowed for precise camera control in 3D environments. This was perfect for use in games like Mario 64, where the section of the traditional D-pad allocated to camera control lacked specificity and fluidity. The other major innovation that the N64 controller brought to the table was ergonomics. It was the first controller to successfully organize all the buttons, sticks, and peripherals with a practical and comfortable design. For the first time, players could spend long gaming sessions without their hands cramping or becoming too tired. This inspired other console developers to create more ergonomic layouts for their controllers. The N64 controller's iconic design served as a template for the DualShock, Xbox 360 controller, and many of the other game controllers that came after it. The bottom line is, the N64 controller showed us that the unique physicality of playing a video game was just as important as the software. Without the impact of this extraordinary innovation, gaming as we know it may not even exist. Revolutionary design and gesture-based accommodations. The Nintendo Wii Remote, often shortened to Wii Remote, was launched in 2006 in accompaniment to Nintendo's seventh home console, the Nintendo Wii. Its revolutionary shape, featuring a controller unlike any before it, set it apart straight away and proved to be one of the most iconic controllers of all time. According to Nintendo, the controller was designed to look like a TV remote to make players feel as though they were at home regardless of where they were playing. The remote also featured gesture sensing technology that allowed the player to interact with games more intuitively, rather than using typical button presses or joystick movements. According to an article called The Wii Remote, A Revolution in Gaming Control, this gesture-based system made the Wii the first console to introduce a controller that is played as naturally as a person would move. This was seen as groundbreaking of its time and changed the way motion-based gaming was approached. Wii, revolutionizing the console experience. The Wii Remote came with several practical buttons and features. It featured 4 shoulder buttons, D-pad, A, B, X, Y buttons, and 2 analog sticks for the nunchuck attachment. The center housed a start button, home button, and a select button. Furthermore, the Wii Remote included a force feedback feature on some games, which utilized a motorized grip handle to replicate a sense of physical feedback. These practical additions made the Wii Remote a hugely successful controller, but it was its ability to adopt different positions and grip styles to accommodate various games that set it apart. The controller featured an adjustable attachment or strap, allowing for a more secure self-restraint device. It also had a configurable center grip, enabling players to adjust the controller shape to fit their personal hand size and game requirement. Prior to the Wii Remote's launch in 2006, console gaming was widely delivered by typical button pressing and joystick movements. The introduction of the Wii Remote and its intuitive gesture-based controls revolutionized the way we think of and enter into the world of gaming. The Wii Remote marked a unique gaming controller, breaking away from the typical conventions of the time and remapping the way we think about console gaming. Innovations of the touchscreen controller. The advent of touchscreen controllers has provided the gaming industry with a new opportunity to take gaming experiences to the next level, providing gamers with a more intuitive, immersive experience that has never been seen before. By eliminating the need for physical inputs and replacing them with a more intuitive touch interface, gamers are able to interact with their games in a way that traditional controllers simply can't provide. Greater ease of control. more detailed user input options, and enhanced accuracy are just a few of the benefits that touchscreen controllers bring to gamers. Apple's iPhone and iPod Touch. The introduction of the iPhone in 2007 ushered in an age of touchscreen controllers. With the iPhone, gamers were able to play the first mobile games with a complete set of input options that weren't available on a traditional gamepad. In addition, Apple's iPod Touch line of media players, which featured the same touchscreen technology as the iPhone, allowed gamers to play touch-based games from the comfort of their own homes. For hardcore gamers, the ability to play games on a touchscreen device presented a dichotomy. On one hand, touchscreen controls allowed developers to innovate in ways that traditional controllers couldn't. On the other hand, the lack of physical buttons on the screen hindered gameplay in certain genres of games, such as first-person shooters or fighting games. As touchscreen controllers become more popular, developers have embraced the technology in a big way. For many, the lack of physical buttons is an advantage, as it allows developers to create unique user interfaces tailor-made for their games. This is especially apparent in the mobile gaming industry, as games like Fruit Ninja or Infinity Blade would simply not be possible on a traditional controller. Other developers have developed peripherals to help bridge the gap between touchscreens and physical controllers. Apple's iPhone, iPod Touch line of devices have seen a resurgence in popularity as controllers for consoles due to the proliferation of apps such as iControlPad and SteelSeries Stratus. These apps, which attach an iOS device to the console gamepad, provide a physical control solution that complement touchscreens well and allows gamers to play more traditional genres of games. The rise of the gamepad, Sony's Dualshock. The Sony Dualshock controller was an absolute game-changer in the world of gaming controllers. It was the first ever truly digital gamepad to be released in the US, and was packed with several revolutionary features. It was released in 1997, after Sony had acquired Nintendo's controller patent, giving them the freedom to emulate Nintendo's design but with new and sophisticated features. The controller included 2 analog sticks for more precise control and more realistic gameplay. This was a major shift in the industry. It allowed for much more nuanced and accurate control over movement and gameplay, allowing players to experience a game in a whole new way. It also featured 2 analog shoulder buttons, allowing for much more precise control over the camera and character movements as well. The DualShock was an example of excellent design and engineering. The controller was sleek and comfortable, and the black-gray color palette made it iconic. The original DualShock also came with 2 vibration motors, making it one of the first ever force feedback game controllers. The ergonomic design was very intuitive, and the dual analog sticks, buttons and shoulder buttons were placed in positions which allowed for a smooth and responsive gaming experience. The controller proved to be so popular that it eventually spawned the DualShock 2, which was even more advanced. The DualShock 2 featured 2 additional analog buttons and had much stronger vibration motors that offered more realistic feedback. It also featured a new pressure-sensitive technology called analog action, where the harder the user pressed the buttons, the greater the response in the game. This new technology allowed gamers to truly immerse themselves in game experiences in a way that had never been possible before. The DualShock was an instant success, and it quickly became one of the most popular game controllers of all time. Sony had finally managed to unseat Nintendo as the dominant player in the gaming industry, and the DualShock served as the perfect symbol of that. The popularity of the controller has endured for over 2 decades, and its influence can still be felt in the industry today. Many modern controllers like the Xbox One controller and the Nintendo Switch Pro controller still feature the same dual analog layout, and the vibration motors are ubiquitous in all modern gaming. The DualShock had a profound impact on the industry, and it remains one of the most iconic controllers of all time. The emergence of motion gaming with Microsoft Kinect. In the gaming world, motion capture technology was not embraced until the early 2000s. Sony PlayStation's iToy was one of the first motion-sensing gaming systems, released in 2003 and allowing players to interact with the console using their body and voice. The Microsoft Kinect was released in 2010 and revolutionized the way in which people play video games. Unlike traditional controllers, the Kinect is a motion-sensing device that relies on advanced motion and voice recognition technology to enhance the gaming experience. Using an infrared sensor, the Kinect collects data from a player's depth and movement, allowing them to control the game by performing specific gestures and voice commands. This revolutionary device marked the emergence of motion gaming and the dawn of a new era of interactive entertainment. The Kinect uses an RGB camera and a depth sensor, which are both capable of capturing 3D images with accurate color details. This allows for precise motion tracking and gesture recognition to be used in game control. The Kinect also utilizes voice recognition to allow players to control their gaming experience by simply utilizing voice commands. These voice commands are mapped by the Kinect to respond to specific actions or commands within the game. The Kinect has an impressive library of voice commands, ranging from simple instructions to full dialogue sequences. The Kinect has also been used to bring multimedia and non-gaming applications to life. The device has provided a much-needed boost to fitness programs and health applications by allowing players to track their bodies in 3D and perform exercises that would have been difficult to track using traditional methods. The adaptive design of the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con. The Nintendo Switch was first released to the public in March 2017. Offering a unique blend of portability and functionality unseen in previous gaming consoles. With its innovative Joy-Con controllers and HD rumble feature, the Nintendo Switch quickly catapulted to the top of the console gaming market, which had been previously dominated by Sony and Microsoft. The Nintendo Switch's controllers, commonly referred to as Joy-Cons, stand out as one of the major innovations of the console. The Joy-Cons are small, versatile controllers that can be used either independently or combined with a smaller grip handle to form a more traditional gamepad. The Joy-Cons are designed with a variety of features which make them ideal for on-the-go gaming. Each individual Joy-Con can be held in either hand and features a number of face buttons, including the A, B, X, and Y buttons. The right Joy-Con also has an additional ZR and ZL shoulder buttons and a motion control stick. The motion control sticks allow the user to make more accurate movements in games that require precision. The Nintendo Switch also supports more advanced motion control gaming. The Joy-Con controllers have built-in IR motion camera sensors, which can pick up hand gestures that the user makes in front of the console. This allows the user to control games by making hand gestures, similar to the Wii Motion Plus. The Joy-Con controllers also feature HD rumble technology, which produces realistic vibration feedback for games. With their small size, the Joy-Con controllers can be used for console and mobile gaming on the go. The Joy-Con controllers are also easily detachable, allowing users to split the controllers between two players at home or on the go. In addition, the Joy-Con controllers have also been designed with special adapters that allow them to be used as traditional gamepads, with the Joy-Con controllers connected to the Joy-Con grip. The Joy-Con grip is a small adapter that the user can hold, allowing them to use the Joy-Con controllers in a traditional gamepad layout. With the Joy-Con grip, the user can play their favorite console games without the need for a bulky, traditional gamepad.